So this is actually kind of a cool day for me. Actually, yesterday will be 13 years and 51 weeks since I started at Typefi. So next Thursday is my 14th anniversary. So I'm based in North Carolina, and I've been a product manager for quite a while now. Why do we do what we do? We were throwing around some different phrases and so forth this last week, and I think one of the things that guides us and drives us is this idea of just automating the grunt work. That we want to make sure that the creativity is in your hands, that you're not, I don't know, you don't have to sort of get frustrated with the kind of tasks that we can automate, and so this is one of the things that drives us. The other thing is about, and this is I'm stealing this from Adobe. Adobe's been talking about this content velocity for probably the last 18 months or so. I think it's a great way to describe kind of what Typefi enables. This idea of being able to quickly produce the output and shorten the time between review cycles, shorten the time to market, all these things, that it helps you maximize that content velocity and just getting things done. And all of that's really summarized by this do more. So I wanted to share a couple things and looking back about what we've done over since we launched Typefi 8 itself. So that was October of 2015, so 40 months ago. We've done 18 releases of the Typefi server. Altogether, that's over 1,300 JIRA issues. For the Typefi Designer for InDesign, 15 releases in 40 months. 6 of them major, 9 minor, 461 JIRA issues, bug fixes, enhancements, new features. The Typefi Writer, 17 releases. 6 major, 11 minor, 438 JIRA issues. The big one, our workflow plugins. This is sort of like the reason for why Typefi Server exists, is about creating these modular action-based workflows. So right now we have 19 plugins. This is soon to expand to 21. All together, cumulative, 145 updates in the last 40 months. And that's only 1,000 plus JIRA commits, which is a little smaller than I thought it would be. All right, so introducing Typefi 8.6. We'll start with the server. The big thing, blinking lights. This is a new optional component for the Typefi server. The idea behind blinking lights is to give you visibility in how jobs are flowing through the system and give you the flexibility to retask jobs and retask instances. InDesign Server is a multi-instance world now. And with an MI license, you can spawn 4, 8, 20 different instances to process more jobs more quickly. And Blinking Lights is our solution. It's available free as a part of the Typefi server component to help you manage those things. You can define different sets of queues, so you can allocate queues based on job tasks or specific groups or users. You can do job prioritization. The color coding that you saw earlier for the jobs that were in the queue, that indicated their relative priority towards one another. And so as jobs with higher priority come into the flow, they can automatically jump ahead of the jobs with lower priority. You get the visibility into which servers are having errors. The bottom right-hand corner, you can see the total number of jobs that have run through, errors you've encountered. That orange area is actually a tray that will give you full logs for that. We also have performance metrics that I'm not demoing. So you can see sort of over time how are your servers processing and performing. So we're very excited about that, and we're going to continue to iterate and add new features around Blinking Lights in the future. Also on the server, it's a transition from Java 8 to OpenJDK 11. So Oracle, back at the beginning of this year, sort of announced that, hey, we're not going to make JDK 8 free any longer. And so we, as most other people, have moved to OpenJDK. This is just sort of a back-end thing, but just an FYI. If you're building your own solution, we do recommend the Amazon Corretto or the OpenJDK binaries. Both of these are rock solid, and Carl uses them for the Corretto we're using on our server infrastructure, and OpenJDK we're using in our installers for Windows. And there are other bug fixes and improvements. For example, in Server 8.6 now, before you could clean up jobs, sort of like your TiVo delete your old shows after a while, and you could set it to a period of 7 days, 30 days, or 90 days. It's kind of arbitrary, but now you can actually set your own time limit. It could be 6 days, 2 days, whatever. Another thing we've added in Server 8.6 is in the job logs. The folder itself that contains your job logs is actually going to be color-coded with a little icon, just to give you another reinforcement. If there are errors in that particular job, you might want to look at them. We like people when they actually look at the errors. All right, shifting gears from the server over to Designer. The big thing with 8.6 is that we're now supporting the October 2008 release, also known as InDesign CC 2019, but really it's just version 14. It's so complicated when they went to this whole CC branding and trying to get rid of version numbers. They can't really get rid of them. But anyway, so we support the latest version of Creative Cloud now. And as part of that, we actually removed support for the 2015 version of Creative Cloud. So we support 17, 18, 19, which is the equivalent of versions 12, 13, and 14. Now, there's a critical fix. Adobe actually broke something in their April 2nd release. There's a pretty serious grep bug in the software. So if you are moving to, or have already moved to InDesign CC 2019, you definitely want to download and manually install this update. This update is not available through the Creative Cloud desktop application. You literally have to download this zip file, unzip it, take this little plug-in, and figure out how to get that installed inside InDesign. There are a lot of people very frustrated with this particular deployment mechanism, but again, please make sure that you get the code of this if you're moving to 2019. All right, IDML Roundtrip. So 8.6 is the start of this process for this. And I know you're probably thinking, like, IDML Roundtrip, like, how is that important to me? Right now, it doesn't mean that much. And the primary, or maybe even the sole beneficiary of this is Peter Carell. And most people know Peter. I'm sorry he couldn't be here, but he loves this. He thinks this is just the bee's knees. So what this allows him to do is that he can now drive the entire Typefi Designer through scripting. Why this matters to you is in the future, IDML Roundtrip enables some really awesome workflows where you can actually create or modify Typefi templates without having InDesign, completely outside of InDesign. For example, you could easily copy and paste layout rules between elements, and you don't have to go through menus and dialogues and mouse clicks and so forth to do that. You could do batch renames of elements and all these sorts of things, because all of the Typefi markup right now, when you save to IDML, the only Typefi plugin that's preserved is autofit. Everything else, fields, frames, elements, and sections, that information is lost when you export out to IDML. So when we add the full round trip, that will be preserved, and so you can actually open up IDML inside Oxygen or any other text editor, and you can make content changes to it. You open it back up again, and everything will be there. So we're really excited about sort of automating or enabling you to do things that are actually very tedious right now. All right, moving into Writer. So, yep, it's true. Writer 8.6 does not have any major or even minor new features. It's just a few little minor tweaks. But I want to use this as a sort of a segue to talk about our versioning and the version compatibility. So right now, in February, we released Typefi Server and Designer and Writer 8.6. And so I'm going to shorten those to 8.6, and actually it's really 8.6.0. Beginning of this conference, actually beginning this week, I got the final candidate release for 8.6.1. And again, everything is in sync. But things might fall out of sync. And we might have Designer 8.6.2. We might have Writer 8.6.5. The thing that I wanted to say that's sort of important is that middle number. That's the number that you have to think about. So anything that's in the Typefi 8.6 class is going to be fully compatible with each other. We do not support Writer 8.5 with Server 8.7 or that sort of thing. But this major dot number, the 8.6, that's where we are driving and want to sort of assure you that you can use any versions within that sequence. Okay, so the fun stuff, thinking about what's happening in the future. So one of the things that we added, and I'm sorry I don't have an image of this one to illustrate this, but if you've used the InDesign action and you use any script that Peter may have written, one of the newer things we added into the event scripts is this ability of supporting the token-based inputs. And so we're doing a lot of work on this one little feature within Typefi. And I have to say, like when we had our internal staff meetings earlier this week, this was the thing that got the most sort of upvotes from within the staff to, we want to keep working on this, keep iterating on this. So right now when you have multiple event scripts for an InDesign action, they show up as little sort of tokens all stacked up in a line. And it's great to see what you're actually running within a certain event now. But there's some usability issues as far as, well, I wanted to try to test something and debug things, and I just want to remove one script or temporarily disable a script. We don't support that right now. You have to actually delete the script, and you've got to add it back in and figure out how to get it back into the right sequence. And so that's a pain point. We also, in the old way of doing things, in Typefi 7, you might have used an event script to try to run a collection of things from a folder. And so, this now gives you visibility in what's in that folder, but if you can't, there's just a lot of little quirks there. So one of the things we're doing with this new files or folder is in that single input that you can link to an individual file, you can link to a collection of files, you can link to a folder of files, and all of them will work as inputs. And if you link to a folder, then we'll just run everything within that folder, no extra script required. So that's going to be the second part. That's coming much quicker. The third part is getting into the being able to selectively disable and manage the things within that single input as it goes. Writer, 64-bit writer. So we are a little slow on this one. So this is one of the reasons why Writer itself has not had major new features in the 8.6 cycle, because we've been working on building a whole brand new version of Writer that is compatible with 64-bit. So that's coming later this year. And one of the benefits of that move to 64-bit, because this is a ground-up rewrite of the Writer. The old code base was built in VB5. The new code base is VB.NET. And so we have task panes. And how many people are actually using Writer in the audience? Just a handful. Wow. So this is a recording from one of our engineers in Sri Lanka. And basically, supporting a task pane-based interface as opposed to a modal dialogue that interrupts and breaks your flow, that you can go through and you can select different things and apply different styles. This is pretty characteristic for the way that you think about applying paragraph styles or character styles within InDesign. Same sort of functionality. One of the things we added, she just ticked this box down here in the bottom, is to make it sticky. And so now as you select a style in the styles panel, anywhere you click in the document, it will now apply that style automatically, which is a very different sort of mode compared to, whoa, that went fast. Very different mode compared to the way that styles typically work in either the style pane in Word or the style pane in InDesign, that they're not sticky, and as soon as you select a new paragraph, it's going to show you what that style is as opposed to modifying it. Thank you. We're very excited about continuing to help you guys do more. Guy's got the microphone. We do want to keep everything recorded, so let's pass it around if there's any questions or whatnot at this point.
So can we assume that going forward, we should go ahead and update Adobe Creative Cloud for all applications, or should we, like in the past, we've waited, like I'll contact Derek and say, should I wait to install this?
Yeah, so our stance on Adobe Updates is we do want to check them for compatibility and so forth. For example, with this 14.2 update, because that caught a lot of people off guard. We didn't see this in the beta testing, and we are actively engaged in the beta testing, and so like we know things well in advance of when Adobe ships it. And our stance is that we are going to support the 3 latest versions of Creative Cloud, and that we will, for major new releases like the 2019, we'll release support within 90 days. So the InDesign CC 2019 was, desktop was announced in October of last year. The server was always trails about a month, and so we can't do anything with that on that side of things. And so February is going to be our normal major update. So when you see when Adobe drops a new version, a major new version of InDesign, it's going to be in this October, November timeframe. They've been doing it at the WMAX conference for years now. And so you can assume that Typefi is going to ship a major new version in January, February timeframe. And unless something else changes, that's going to be our pattern. We'll continue to do minor releases, those the 861, 862, so forth, throughout the year, just based on need. There's no set schedule for those. We'll probably do a drop sort of in the middle of this year, like June, July, as another bug fix. And like I mentioned earlier, 861. Guy and I will be completing the documentation for that in the next week or so, and so that will be available for on-premise customers and Cloud Gold in about 2 to 3 weeks, and then for the Cloud Bronze, the subscription shared hosting, it'll be 2 weeks after that. So basically, you're looking at about a month from now, Cloud Bronze will be updated to 861. But yeah, in general, it's actually safe to update the InDesign applications. You will notice that the Creative Cloud Desktop, they have now changed their policy. It used to be when you installed an update, they thought everything is an update, whether it's a major version or not, and they would just delete the old version. That is now you have to opt in. By default, it will not delete your old version. There are a lot of people that were really upset about that. And you might want to check your Creative Cloud Desktop preferences to make sure that you don't have a tick box that says, auto update and delete old versions, because those are 2 options you have now. But you should be safe. We like it. I mean, there's some good performance features in 2019, and you'll see some new stuff in our lightning round in a little bit, and how we're leveraging that. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Or
If you don't have any questions right now, which is perfectly fine, one of the things that I'd like to invite you for our session this afternoon, I was talking about that yesterday, that sometimes, me and Caleb, we do a lot of work on Typefi and on making it better for you as a user. And one of the things that I'd like to be sometimes is like the fly on the wall situation, where I could see how you and your users use our product. Because from that, we would be able to learn so much about things that we think are brilliant, but that turns out that you guys and the people that use Typefi on the work floor actually don't find so brilliant or have never understood. So, as you're sitting here today and in preparation for this afternoon, if you have anything right now like that, like, oh man, I'm so annoyed that every time I have to push this button, but you get used to it, you just do it. If you have any of those kinds of things, or if going back after this week, you have talking to your colleagues that use Typefi, any of those situations, any of those little annoyances, that's what me and Caleb like to know. Because any annoyance you have is something that we can potentially fix, whether that is something in the software or whether that is something us as solutions consultants can help you solve by different means.
One of the things that we very much realize is that the odds are if you have something that bothers you and you don't think much of it, the odds are actually fairly high that it bothers somebody else. But if you don't say anything about it, then we don't really know about it. And there's definitely a lot to be said for the more complaints or the more feature requests that come in that are the same or similar, the more focus we put on those things. So please raise your voices.
So speaking of raising voice, we're on 8.4.1 right now.
Yep.
With the new version, is there the ability to tag, have multiple tags in the filtering in the UI?
So the tagging feature right now is all around jobs. And so you can have an infinite number of tags attached to a job. Doing tags within the actual files themselves, is that what you're
Well, no,
looking
more
for?
it'd be like, so we have the as of date, we would have the person who requested the job, you would have the job title, so if you wanted to see everything that I ran as of 3/31 for this one particular product, but right now it seems that you can only filter on as of 3/31 or as of the product or as of me.
Right, and the search filtering within the
Yes,
jobs.
yes.
Yes.
Sorry,
no,
still
that's
need more
actually
coffee.
that's an issue that's in our backlog,
Okay.
and being able to use modifiers and or and so forth. Yes, that's definitely coming.
Okay.
I can't commit to when it's coming, but yeah, I think you can sort of see some of the trend lines in areas in our software where, like, the workflows themselves right now, it's a waterfall of task-based actions. What we don't have right now are sort of moving into this kind of programming language type thought process of exception. It's like if, then, else. Kind of modes, and that's something we're putting a lot of thought and we're thinking a lot about it and how we might pull that off, and trying to decide, is this something that doesn't really work in a visual authoring environment, that we want to expose that kind of functionality from sort of a command line sort of background, or how we want to because the goal for us in this automating stuff is to make it easy, to make it kind of seamless, transparent to you as the individuals. And I think there are a number of customers that use Typefi that don't even think about the XML in the back end because we've hidden it from them in a way. So we're trying to make sure that we still honor that root of the simplification of the automation, making it accessible while still making it powerful. And like in the file structure, in the file side of things, we have versioning, and we have some things, sort of utilities around copying and moving and that sort of stuff. But how do we want to keep moving this marker to make it more like an actual file system, like we are more used to now with Windows or Mac OS, of being able to do smart folders and filtering and having favorites instead of always having to navigate through the folder structure. So yeah, we're putting a lot of thought into that, and that's really kind of coming into planning for what comes next. Like maybe not 8.7, maybe Typefi 9, and have a massive sort of rethinking of some of the lessons that we've learned through the years that we've worked with you, and the years that we've been doing it ourselves, and how can we leverage that experience to build something that's more enabling. But yeah, so it's in the backlog. It's something we're thinking about a lot, and we get you. It's a defect.
Thank you.
All right, good deal.